British officials tell me that if Julian Assange left the Ecuadorian embassy behind me, he would likely be arrested. Now, there have always been questions over what would happen next. Not anymore. This morning, news that the WikiLeaks founder would likely face charges and extradition to the US.
In a bizarre slip, a court document reveals the US Justice Department is preparing criminal charges against Julian Assange. Charges supposed to remain sealed. Due to the sophistication of the defendant and the publicity surrounding the case, the document says, no other procedure is likely to keep confidential the fact that Assange has been charged. Multiple US intelligence agencies concluded that tens of thousands of emails taken from the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign were stolen by Russian government hackers, part of an operation aimed at helping the campaign of Donald Trump. Those emails were published by WikiLeaks. This court document, filed by mistake months after special counsel Robert Mueller cited WikiLeaks' participation in Russia's efforts to interfere in the 2016 election. A US lawyer for Mr. Assange calling the news dangerous for democracy. The news that criminal charges have apparently been filed against Mr. Assange is even more troubling than the haphazard manner in which that information has been revealed. Since 2012, Julian Assange has been evading arrest in London, holed up in the embassy of Ecuador after seeking asylum. He fled there over claims he sexually assaulted a woman in Sweden, but has always maintained the real threat was from US authorities. The document, first unearthed by a former US intelligence official and posted on Twitter, revealing Assange's name 2 times in an August court filing by a federal prosecutor in Virginia, part of an argument to keep sealed an unrelated case involving an accused child sex criminal. This morning, a spokesman for the US Attorney's Office releasing a statement saying in part the court filing was made in error. That was not the intended name for this filing.
So, Keir, obviously a mix-up, a big one. What does that mean if prosecutors were actually trying to get him arrested and into a U.S. courtroom?
Well, Savannah, look, people who support Julian Assange are going to say, aha, I told you so. We always said he was the target of the US government. They're going to call this underhand and say that Julian Assange should be protected by the First Amendment. So does it make it more difficult for US prosecutors? Yes, I think it does. But I think we now know that they are really determined. They do believe that WikiLeaks was working with the Russian government, a hostile actor for the US, even though WikiLeaks denies it. And look, Savannah, Julian Assange, on a number of occasions, has deeply embarrassed US intelligence. I think they would dearly love to see him in court.
Keir Simmons in London for us with that breaking news. Thank you.